Needs no introduction, but I think we live in rather tenuous times at this point. I think America and the world are now coming to terms and coming to realize that they really screwed up by supporting the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq. Of course, let's see, there was September 11th and they said that 15 of the 19 hijackers were Arabs. So let's bomb Afghanistan. Why not Canada, or Peru, or maybe Norway, or maybe Australia? No, they decided to go to Afghanistan. And then, of course, we had that wonderful piece of intelligence. GW came forward and Colin Powell, and I sort of reflected that in the Bush bonus bumper disc. One of the tunes on that, it's a takeoff on Elvis Presley's Jailhouse Rock, but it's not Elvis. It's it's GW and the Carlisle Group singing your favorite songs. I was talking on the telephone with Tony Blair. We was looking for intelligence that he would share. I need some information that they can't rebuke. He said Saddam was buying stuff to build on the nuke. Well, let's roll. Okay. That's the problem we got here, we now know that these wars are based on fraud, and this serves no other purpose than to fill the coffers of the military-industrial complex. So what else is new? Problem is, and I'm going to move quickly here, the problem here is that now they've got their crosshairs focused on another country, and that is Iran. Now, Iran, as far as I know, didn't have anything to do with 9/11, although they'll tell you differently. And the sad fact is that Peymon Mottahedeh is from Iran. And I shouldn't have said a sad fact. There's nothing sad about that. I know a lot of folks from Iran. And I will tell you that I am ashamed at the overwhelming majority of the American sheeple, those that love to fly their flags, blow the dust off of it on the 4th of July and on Veterans Day, and they love to sing along, I'm proud to be an American where I get to think I'm free. I've all but forgotten the men who died to give that right to me, and I just won't stand up next to you because I don't have much to say. Fill in the blanks, folks. But the point is that most of the American people don't know the Constitution. They don't know their rights. They don't know their laws. They don't know who their councilmen are, their selectmen are. They don't know who their representatives are, their senators. They don't know nothing. But you know what? They know when Monica Lewinsky did her thing, you know. And they know all about Anna Nicole and Tom Cruise and all that stuff. But they don't know anything about their own country. And here comes a guy from Iran, a so-called terrorist nation, according to GW. And here's Peymon Mottahedeh trying to educate all of us because we just don't know. Folks, this man is setting the example of what we all should have been in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, a man of great honor, of high morals, and I'm sorry he ain't no terrorist unless you're part of the government. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Peymon Mottahedeh.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for that great introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you. By the way, the gentleman that came before us, for those of you who don't know, Ted Gunderson, he didn't introduce himself. He used to be the head of the FBI offices in Memphis, Dallas, and Texas. Dallas and Los Angeles, I'm sorry. And he didn't know what's going on with the government and FBI until he got out. So he's a big whistleblower. He's been a speaker at our conferences before. I highly recommend that you go check out his table, get his material. We've had him so many times at these conferences, we figured give Ted a break since he went to Nebraska to recover from all that. So please do check out Ted Gunderson. Well, those of you who saw the brochure of the conference, you know that the theme of my talk is supposed to be about how you can live free of IRS tyranny without fear and be free. But it really is not just about the IRS, because my theme has been about freedom in general, period. How you can live free of government, oppressive taxation, and control. This is supposed to be a free country, right? You know, well, in one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, said that when the government fears the people, you have liberty. And when people fear the government, you have tyranny. So, which one do we have here? Do you feel giggly when you see a police car behind you in the mirror for miles and miles following behind you? Do you feel safe, or you think, oh, wonderful, Mr. Government is right behind me. He's going to protect me from anything happening to me? Or you wonder, I wonder if my tail light is out, my brake light is going to pull me over and give me a fix-it ticket or something, right? You get a letter from Uncle Sam, your big brother, the IRS. You think, oh, wonderful, my big brother, government, IRS, the government, my protector. Wonderful. Oh, they're calling me. It's so nice to hear from the IRS or government or SEC. Or FDA, or some alphabet soup government agency right out there, right? Does that make you feel giggly? So that in itself tells you about the lack of freedoms we have in America. And as Dave told you, I was born in Iran in 1962, came to America in 1977, and fortunate to have a very wonderful father who was a great teacher, a great humanitarian, he passed away last year. But one thing I really appreciate about him is the fact that he took me with him wherever he could go. And I was with him growing up, and when he talked to his friends about politics, like about East-West conflict, or Arab-Israeli conflict, or the Iranian politics, I got to be by him and just sit there like you fly on the wall and listen and observe. And so I grew up in a politically oriented family which we cared about freedom and truth and justice. And in Iran, you could not criticize the government. The CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, had deposed the lawful government of Iran. In fact, there's a book on my table, if you could get that for me, please, Madonna, on CIA. And they had installed the Shah of Iran, the king, as a dictator versus just a constitutional monarch who he was before. And this is a book on that subject, by the way, by American Free Press, our co-sponsor at the back. They've got great material. This is called The CIA in Iran, the 1953 Coup, and the Origins of the U.S.-Iran Divide. Okay? And this is a report of a guy who was involved in that coup. This is well-known, publicized. Go look it up on internet, put Operation Ajax. And it'll come up all kind of stuff on Google and Wikipedia and Operation Ajax. This is well established that the Central Intelligence Agency, on behalf of the oil companies of England, Britain, engineered this coup to get rid of this government, the lawful government of Iran, bring a dictator as a puppet of the U.S. imperialistic powers. And they had, and the SAVAK, the Secret Service of Iran, was a very feared agency. And I knew not to talk to strangers about the government, about the Shah, about the criminality. And my dad told me when I was in 6th grade, Peymon, don't talk to your friends, because him or his dad could be a government spy, and that's going to get us in trouble. And I knew what that meant. You could be imprisoned without notice, tortured in there, and maybe even executed without notice. So that's the kind of country I came from. So I come to America just before the Iranian Revolution in 1979, a little bit before that, and thinking, hey, the great America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, the U.S. Constitution, the law of the land has been, for 200 years, been there. And cannot be broken, right? You can say what you want to say and be what you want to be. Land of freedom and opportunity, right? So, I go to university, and my economics classes at Long Beach State University, I learn about libertarianism, about free enterprise system, how we don't have free enterprise in America, truly. We have a socialist-fascist combination. the big banks and their corporations, control the politicians. They pay for election and re-election campaign of their puppet politicians, which in turn put in place the heads of the executive branch and the judges in place, and they control the major media. Let's face it, folks. There's a reason why products on them, they say, this is a great product, buy it because it's as seen on TV. As seen on TV, the average person means it's real. If it's not, didn't see it on TV, it can't be real, right? You must be lying. You're going against opposite of what the TV says. We got the TV generation out there, the boob tube lovers. And most Americans get the news from ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and CNN, or Newsweek, Time, U.S. News and World Report, and all the major the papers in America get their major news source from New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, and a couple of the wire services, and they just puppet what they say. So those are all controlled by the same big rich banks and corporations out there, a small clique of them. And I knew one thing in Iran as growing up. The government not only had the power, they controlled the media in Iran. They censored the media. And in America, we have the same thing, except it's not so visible. It's more under the wraps. Like Ted Gunderson was telling you guys earlier, his program exposing government corruption and criminality going on out there in Nebraska, that was supposed to be on air, produced everything. But at very highest levels, they nixed it. It was on TV Guide, listed. So that's why this information doesn't get out. You think when Joe Bannister quit in 1999, we put him out at a hotel down the street to the whole world, ex-IRS agent, exposed as IRS fraud. Somebody's interested to listen? Los Angeles Times? Orange County Register, you want to come cover it? Nobody showed up. Okay? And if they do show up, they just they make us look bad rather than reporting honestly what's going on. And the reporters themselves are honest, but the hires up to say, look, man, you got to put a little twist on it. You can't make these crazy guys look good, So, anyhow, I became an American citizen in 1989, joined the Libertarian Party immediately to vote the right way. Don't vote Republicans, the Republicans. You know who they are? Republican, Democrat. Same difference. Okay? And I mean the same difference at the highest levels. I'm not talking about maybe a local city council guy or county commissioner or those guys. Yeah, those are real, close to the people. But the highest levels, they're both owned and controlled by the same big banks or corporations. The same people that are funding Bush are funding Hillary Clinton. Okay? They buy both sides. Isn't that the best way? You buy both sides of the game, you win no matter who wins, right? There's a reason why all these political campaigns that cost over $100 million the last presidential campaign, like each side. $100 million bucks. Why would these guys get so much money? If from the big banks or corporations, if there was not a payoff on the other side, right? And they pass all these political reform and campaign finance control, all that nonsense. But it doesn't matter. They're a bunch of corrupt people. The problem is they're not living by their oath that they all took to God to uphold and defend the American citizens' rights by upholding and defending the U.S. Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Instead, they themselves become the domestic enemies of the U.S. Constitution and the American people. So I'm going to share with you folks what I've learned that can help each of you live free of this tyranny, and at the same time how we can work together to get our country to be back. And there's 3 levels of freedom awareness you got to go through to be truly free, in my opinion. 3 levels. If you're stuck at level 1 or level 2, you still won't be free. You got to get to level 3. The level 1 is, as I came across, hey, America is not such a free country like I thought. Too much taxes, too much regulation. No, a lot of people know that. Vote for a better guy in office. And that's all you're told to do. That's the general political wisdom out there. Vote for a better guy. Okay? And then, with me in 1992, I came across the Patriot movement, and I heard about the U.S. Constitution, what it actually says. Somebody gave me one of these citizen rule books. I actually read it, cover to cover. The Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. And I said, whoa, I never knew that. And I had a 4-year degree in business administration. I had 2 business law classes. And I never knew anything about the Constitution. So when I heard of this stuff about income tax, I actually went and looked it up. The 5th Amendment, for example, of the Constitution says, anything you tell government, they can use against you to put you in jail with. Essentially, that's what it says. I said, I never heard about that. So I looked it up. By golly, that's what it says. So why people fill out this 1040 income tax confession forms every April 15th? Because they're simply afraid if they don't. They're simply afraid if they don't. And I'm going to share with you tomorrow more about the Wizard of Oz, the IRS. Because the fact is, actually, when you file a 1040 income tax confession form, it's the most insidious form of self-enslavement you're doing. You're much better off not giving that form for the government to use against you. Joe Bannister, when we helped him come out of the IRS and expose IRS fraud, told me early on, Peymon, one of the first things I always did when I was with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, when we had a target to go after, our standard procedure was pull that guy's previous tax returns up and use everything, anything in there against them. But if you don't have the form filled in, they have a harder time, much harder time to have to investigate you. Not readily available information to use against you. And so, level 2 is you learn about the Constitution, learn about your rights or law a little bit, and you think, hey, I can assert my rights. I can assert the law. I can do this and the other. And that's good. But then, you run into the 3rd stage. The 3rd stage is, most everybody in America assumes, now most people trust the government to some degree. But a lot of people know that the legislative and executive tend to be corrupt. But people think, but the courts, they're sworn to uphold the Constitution, right? The wonderful United States Supreme Court, when they say something, that's it, end of story. If the U.S. Supreme Court says you have such a right, you have a right. If you don't have it, you don't have it. End of story. So there's theology out there, and it's a religion. It's called the religion of government. The religion of government is, whatever government says is it. And who is the source, ultimate source? The priests of the government religion. In black robe, they're judges. The highest priests are U.S. Supreme Court priest judges, right? But that's a bunch of nonsense. How many of you heard that last year's Supreme Court said that the government can take your home and give it to another person just because the other guy is going to pay more taxes? That's it. There used to be for 200 years, it was well understood, the government can take your property and from you only if it's for public use, like roads, that type of thing, or public building, okay, and they compensate you for that, because everybody needed that land. The road was going straight to your land, for example. But now the government all of a sudden can take your property because, the other guy will pay more taxes. He's got, more going on with his land than you. They just changed the law. Well, let me tell you something. Murder is murder, and it's always wrong. Stealing is stealing, and it's always wrong. The law is supposed to be a fixed, noble, right or wrong thing. It doesn't change every day. Murder does not become okay tomorrow, or stealing become okay tomorrow, does it? So this law stuff that they're doing, these are not real laws. These are political laws. These are corrupt and criminal laws, and no man has a right, no man has a duty to follow a corrupt criminal law. In fact, I submit to you that every man has a right and a duty to resist and repel that kind of a law. And that's what the Founding Fathers did, folks. That's what they did. And that's what I invite you to do. To recognize that the corruption goes even deeper into the judiciary. And you can ask Ted Gunderson more about that. And, there's so many of our speakers that will tell you about the fact that they thought the courts were honest. Well, sometimes we end up in courts because that's the last resort, but it's not. That's not. The last resort is not the courts. The last resort is you. But you say, but as a voter, I always vote for the better candidate. Someone like Ron Paul, or Libertarian Party, or Constitution Party, or a Green Party, some third party who is real versus Republican Democrats. But I'm already doing that. No, you're not. You know what else you could do that you don't know about? Is your rights and powers as jurors. That's right. As a juror, you have more power than the judge, executive, and legislative. You are the people. You have all the ultimate power. As a trial juror, you can say not guilty when you smell a rat. For example, you saw in the movie America for Freedom to Fascism, Marcy Brooks, the lady in red shirt, was talking about how they acquitted this gentleman, Whitey Harrell, because of not filing tax forms because the court refused to show them the law that required Whitey Harrell to file income tax. The jurors smelled it. And you have the right, you have the power, because the judge will not tell you. You should know the jurors have the right to veto all bad laws, or badly applied laws, or corruptly applied laws, or political laws, period. But the judge will not tell you that. See, you're supposed to know that. The United States Supreme Court, over well over 100 years, understood and said jurors have the right and power to judge the law, as well as the facts of the case. But in 1895, in a Supreme Court case called Spar versus Hansen, by 5-4 decision, that's it, just a majority decision, the 5 of the Supreme Court justices said, well, the jurors do have that power, but, it's not a good idea for them to use it, although they can use it. And, but it's certainly not error for the judge not to tell them that. The judge doesn't have to tell that to the jurors. Okay. So what happened after that? The judges took that one step further. Now the judge doesn't tell that to the jurors as a courtesy. He refuses to tell the jurors, and he refuses to allow the lawyers or the defendants to tell the juror that they have such power and right. You don't tell them that they got the power of the jury. Otherwise you're going to be in trouble, Mr. Lawyer. I'm going to put you in jail. Contempt of court. Jail for your lawyer if you tell those jurors they got such power. See, they don't want you to know that. In these citizen rule books, read about jury power. So when you ever go for a jury summons, go there and see if you can do justice there. And you don't have to tell the judge about that. Because if you do tell him, oh judge, I know about the jury can judge the law and the facts, guess what's going to happen? Judge is going to say, thank you very much for coming here. You can go home now. We want some sheeple in here. Next sheeple, please. Okay? You don't want to tell them that. Okay? Just get in there and do justice. The other thing is the grand jurors. How many of you heard the term grand jury before? Heard the term. Okay, in this audience, quite a bit of number of hands went up. Well, the grand jury is a body of citizens, 23 in number. It could be different by law in different states. And they have the right and power to investigate and indict anybody, period, for any crime that happened within the jurisdiction. For example, I want to give you guys about 911. The federal government has refused to do a real investigation. Bush administration refused to do it, right? And when it did do it, it was a cover-up job. And you're going to hear more about that tonight at William Rodriguez's speech. But all they had to do was, when they want to investigate like the mafia, the drug dealers, right? They go, they gather some evidence, take it to the grand jury, or like an Oklahoma bombing. They took it to a grand jury. Even though that one got covered up there, the truth from Oklahoma bombing grand jury also. And they say, indict this guy. But What the grand jurors don't know is that they can go on their own and investigate. They can go look for citizens. You can go talk to the grand jury. Yeah, you can go report it to a grand jury, and the grand jurors can investigate and indict everybody. The IRS, the United States Attorney, Department of Injustice lawyers, and I mean the word injustice. They could Vice President Cheney or Bush. They can all be indicted with a presentment of the grand jury. And the presentment is the same as an indictment, except the presentment is done without the help of the government lawyer. They have the power, but they don't know it. Why? Because we were not taught that in the public school system, the government schools. We're not taught these things. So the third level of you go to winter freedom is that the courts are corrupt, and you start using what I call guerrilla warfare tactics. Now, it doesn't have to be guerrilla warfare with guns, although the founding fathers certainly did. How many of you saw the movie Patriot with Mel Gibson? You raise your hands. Who didn't see it? Who didn't see the movie Patriot with Mel Gibson? Go buy it and go watch it. Okay? There's a scene in there. Well, Mel Gibson character is watching with his telescope the British Red Courts on this side and the militia of the American Patriots on the other. And he said the battle was decided before it begun. What did he mean by that? The battle was decided before it even begun? Well, that's because given the equation of well-trained, well-organized, better armed, full-time redcoats with a ragtag, part-time, poorly armed, duck hunting guns of ragtag, unorganized militia, of course, you don't win with head-to-head battle. You win with guerrilla warfare. And every time a country has been taken over, it's gotten back by the people by guerrilla warfare. And what I mean by that is that all they want you to think and believe that all you can do, your only power is you can vote for a better person in office. And that's not true. You can resist tyranny everywhere, and you should. Okay? For example, you heard Joe Barronster just speak about the fact that IRS has failed to show him, and when he was with the IRS or afterwards in any debates about the law that requires any of us as Americans to file and pay income tax. And We the People Foundation has taken Joe Barronster's research right to the heart of the IRS, right in front of the faces. They refuse to show it. So, because they say we got the power. We control the voting machine, the big banks and corporations, control the politicians' re-election campaign. And what can you do about it, buddy? And the American people en masse are ignorant and don't know. They don't see it on TV. They think you're a kook. Right? But you can do a lot. There's 63 million non-filers in America, according to the IRS 10 years ago. Yeah, that's not my number. That's according to them. Join the ranks. Okay? Why would you want to feed the enemy? Why would you want to do it? And I hate to say it, you think, Peymon, you sound pretty anti-government there. No, I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-corrupt government. I'm anti-criminal government. If these people, realize they're supposed to be working for you. So why is it that when you go into a court of law, people call the judge, Your Honor? And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that sounds like in Iran, when the people call the Shah of Iran, Your Honor. It's the other way around, okay? He's your employee. He should call you Mr. Honorable Citizen. Right? That's how it should be done. So you do a combination of tactics for it. And what I mean by that is that you learn the system, how it works, and you make it work for you. And then you go from there forward. And I cannot teach it all to you in one speech. I wish I could. There's a lot more to it. That's why I've developed all these courses over the years. Madonna, maybe you could give me level 1. I'll show it to them. Because I learned as a libertarian that, gosh, I don't have to just vote for somebody better. See, I try to get people to look. Hey, you liberal left guy. You conservative right guy. You the truth seeker, the left and right. You guys are the same. Most of your establishment, Democrat, Republicans, are owner controlled by the big banks and corporations. The grassroots are so close together, you just disagree on a couple of little issues. See, what they do is divide and conquer. Okay? You really, if you love liberty, freedom, and justice, you are a libertarian. What happened is that around the turn of 20th century, the socialists stole the label of liberal from liberals, who were freedom lovers like Thomas Jefferson. That's right. So, we the liberals were forced to come up with a different label, and we came up with libertarian, meaning we love liberty. But liberal doesn't mean the communist, socialist thing it is today now. Okay? And the conservatives, well, some people think, well, I'm a conservative Christian and that type of stuff. Well, you know what? George Bush claims he's a conservative Christian. Now, let me ask you something. I'm not a Christian, okay? Just so you know, my wife is Mormon, and I respect freedom of religion with everybody. But some people tell me, Peymon, you act more like Jesus than my Christian friends. But here's the fact. Did Jesus say you can go murder people, invade people's countries and murder people? No. So if George Bush is on TV blinking saying, I turn to my Savior Jesus Christ, and I saw him do that when he was running for office, is he a real Christian? So all this Christian think, conservatives think we follow this guy. Because they're not taking the time to really check into what's going on here. So if you believe in justice, godliness, some traditional values, doesn't matter you're a conservative. Okay, because the conservatives, so-called, are the ones doing these wars. They're not conservative. They're not conservative, they're not liberals. Okay? And Bush's crimes are very obvious. But if you want to know about Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's crimes, go to Google, video.google.com or YouTube, and watch the Clinton Chronicles. Go ahead. How many of you seen the Clinton Chronicles? Yeah, years ago came out. So you know what? After seeing the Clinton Chronicles, you didn't want to call yourself a liberal, anything close to Clinton. Okay? So that's what you got going on out there, but you're not going to get in with the election campaign alone. Even though I'm going to support Ron Paul running for president, and I'm going to do everything I can to raise him funds. We're trying to go do a conference like this in Texas to support him, hopefully later this year. But the bottom line is you got to learn about the system, how it works, and make it work for you. Whether it's traffic tickets, whether it's the IRS, whether it's a bureaucracy of any kind or government official, if you know about the law, about your rights, and legal procedure have something, you can live free. And people say, oh, but Peymon, that's what lawyers are for, attorneys are for. Well, can you afford a lawyer at $150 to $500 an hour? Because that's how much they cost. In Los Angeles, it's about $300 an hour. Louisiana and the deep south, $150 an hour. New York, $500 an hour. So you can't afford the help. So what does that leave you? You know what that leaves you? If you don't know about the law and your rights, when the government official comes after you, that leaves you in a chair of an imbecile or a child. That's what I found myself. I said, oh my God, Peymon, there's a lot of stuff I didn't know about. I need to know. I got to know. I'm an adult. I'm over 18, adult, sovereign, free American. I don't know what my rights are. I don't know what legal procedures I can use. If the police stops me, do I have to talk? If the IRS sends me a letter, do I have to respond? What to say, what not to say? And if you know what the game is, you have a chance of winning. See, folks, law is a game no different than chess, blackjack, or any card game. It's a game. The law is a game. And when you turn 18 years old, sorry to tell you this, you were forced into a game called law. No longer your parents are responsible for you. You are responsible for you and your rights and your freedom. And if the government official comes after you, you have to decide what to do. If you can't afford the help, guess what? You're just going to say, yes, Massa. Whatever you say, Massa. I'll cooperate with you. I'll give you all my bank records. I'll tell you anything you want me to say. Just take it easy on me, please. That's the creed of a slave. That's not land of free. That's not home of brave, is it? No. So that's what turned me on to studying this stuff and start teaching classes that eventually became, from early 1990s, became eventually Freedom Law School in 1996. And we put our education material out there. This is our level 1 course of Freedom Law School, 22 hours long, for example. And We put it out with a money-back guarantee. Unconditional money-back guarantee for 90 days. If you don't find that good, useful information that works, return it. I don't want you to have it. I don't want your money. I don't want your money if it doesn't work for you. Because we're not here as a money-making organization. Freedom Law School is about freedom, about justice, about truth, about love, about doing the right thing. Okay? But you cannot have that, unfortunately, without some tools. And that tools, number one, is you have a passion in your heart for freedom. That's number one. Your passion for liberty is number one. Without that, no matter how much I tell you this stuff, you're going to say, well, Peymon, forget it. I'm just going to make my money. I'm doing good with my business or whatever I do. I just pay me a little bit of extortion thing. I do my thing. And, they'll leave me alone right now. Yeah, they're leaving you alone right now. But you know what? You never know when your turn is going to come up. And when your turn comes up, as a filer or non-filer, then you're going to come to me and say, oh, Peymon, I was at your conference. I still get it. Peymon, I was at your conference 5 years ago. I never got any material. IRS is raping me now. I thought, yeah, but I'm going to quit. I'm going to keep filing because I was scared. Now they indicted me. Now they audited me. They want $100,000 from me. Or I thought I'd done it with UCC and sovereign citizenship and this other, patriot mythology theory, like I'm a sovereign citizen, and I canceled my adhesion contract and tore up my Social Security card, and that's what happens. And I don't want it to happen to you. Okay? What I want to happen to you is for you to live free, number one. Because if you live free, you are 1,000 times more powerful than a guy that simply votes or activists, passes flyers, gets petitions, or show up to demonstration, kind of that stuff. That stuff is what I call passe. That's okay. I'm not against it. I'm all for it. But by itself will not do a job, does it? How many people demonstrate against the war and throughout America, and Bush is still sending more troops to Iraq, right? I mean, these guys are not listening to you. We got the best congressman money can buy, right? And the money, these guys listen to whoever pays them money. So you learn about the law, you learn about your rights, and you're going to make tremendous strides for you to live free, starting with the IRS. You don't need to be afraid of them. Okay? They are your public servants. So vote, third party. I prefer libertarian, but vote for whatever third party you like. Not Democrat, Republicans, except in race cases like someone like Congressman Ron Paul or Dennis Kucinich. I understand he's a real guy that cares about justice. Somebody that really is true to the people, right? Number two, get on grand juries, get on trial juries, and exercise your powers and rights. Educate yourself. And folks, get with organizations like Freedom Enterprise Society and Freedom Law School. These events and the work that we do does not happen without your commitment to freedom and without your financial support. Ted Gunderson thanked me for helping him out when he needed it. Well, we also have Joe Bannister, for those of you who don't know. We donated $12,000 to his legal defense when that came after him and raised thousands more at our conferences. But I'm just only one guy. All we can do is to really reach inside your heart and your commitment to freedom and bring that out so you guys help him out. It's not my money. I'm only one guy. Okay? So, you're on the grand jury. You can, in your county, you can volunteer generally. You can, every year they look for, in fact, in California, for example, they look for grand jurors. Federal and most places, they're done by random, just like trial jurors. So you never know when your turn might come up. Okay? But, I'm going to be doing a class on that, grand juries again. In fact, for more information on that, go to the jurypower.org, our website of the Jury Education Committee, jurypower.org. There's more information on there. And folks, tomorrow I'm going to give you more details about what to do, what not to do. If you cannot be there tomorrow, get a recording of it or listen to it on We the People Radio Network, WTPRN.com. That's the initials of We the People Radio Network. WTPRN.com. Listen to all this, folks. And your information package that you got, folks, we're going to go over that, also some of that tomorrow. But check it out. If you don't get to be here, listen to that, folks. And thank you for coming. And we're going to take a lunch break right now. Folks, we're running lunchtime right now. We're running 20 minutes behind on the program, I'm afraid. So whatever the program that you got, folks, don't go by that except the fact that we're 50 minutes behind. So we're going to be back in your seats, folks, at, let's see, what time we got? At